Oh, there we go. Welcome, everyone. It's been a while since we saw you. Today, this will be me and mostly Anna, Little Wave Anna, who will be taking you through our session. And we'll also have Tim from the Fun Circle and Chris from the Seed Library also talking to us during this time. But just to sort of take you up to the beginning of April, which is where we are now. So back in January, we heard that we were going to get this 2025 another year of funding from the Joseph Rowntree Foundation for this community. And at the beginning of February, we met with the Joseph Rowntree Foundation to talk about our initial thoughts and plans, and for them to kind of tell us what was important to them. And so, although we've been a bit quiet for the last month, we have been working in the background like crazy people, um, creating a shape for this year, and very much drawing on what you have told us when we have met with you to ask what matters to you, what do you want to see, how would you like to see the community expanding and working together for this next year. What's important to you to develop your practice and the opportunities you have to do this work out in the world. So those are all the things that have been informing our labours, and we're now ready to share that with you here today. But before we jump in to sharing our plans, we'd like to have a little check-in moment. And if you're anything like me, then this last month, last 2 months, and even last 2 weeks, it feels like the world has changed immensely. And I have felt the kind of encroaching in on my space and my soul of a deficit mindset, a fearful mindset. What's the world going to hold? What really can we do to orient our communities and to encourage our ecologies towards new and generative ways of being together? What can we do in this, what feels like increasingly hostile environment? And that collective fear, that collective sense of scarcity, I felt it in my own bones, and I'm sure you felt it in yours. And so to check in, we're going to do what is one of the most important things for us to do as a community, which is to practice abundance in spite of what else might be going on, to grow our confidence in being bearers of abundance in the world rather than bearers of scarcity. So in order to do this, I'm going to invite us all to get into a breakout room with ideally just one other person. And if you're thinking, oh, I don't fancy going into a breakout room with one other person, then I completely understand. But this is part of what we do to practice. And so I would really encourage you to take the risk. And we're just going to have 3 minutes each in our pairs. And I'm going to invite you just to share one moment in the last week, 2 weeks, whatever recent time scale feels good to you, but something that happened to you recently that gave you a sense of abundance. And just to kind of whilst you're just thinking about that, I will kick off by giving a little one for me, which is I'm a beekeeper. And for several winters now, the warm winters have meant that every winter I've lost colonies, way more colonies than usual. And I've really struggled to keep my apiary going. Like, I've lost lots of colonies. But this last week, I opened up my hives from across the winter, and all of them were doing really well. All 5 of them were flourishing, and that gave me a real sense of hope and abundance. So that's just a little example from me to get you started. But it can be as small or as big as you like. It can be from your work or it can be from your family. It can be the gift of an Easter egg. I really don't mind. But let's practice abundance by sharing stories of where we see that showing up in our lives every day. So Anna, if you don't mind doing the um, breakout rooms, that would be wonderful.
I'm opening them now, and I've put 5 minutes on the time. If that's
Okay, great. So about 2.5 minutes each.
shut up. I've got to stop recording it because that's gonna like.
Wasn't that a
Racist. Oh, fine.
wasn't that a mean 10 seconds? Oh, awful. That's it. I hope you heard some. I hope you heard some good stories. Good. I'm just muting all of you who weren't muted. I'm sorry if you didn't get to. Too short. Yes, yes, absolutely too short. Well, I'm glad to hear it's too short. Yeah, I can already feel that sort of little uplift. Yeah, let's have a few shares in the chat. Maybe that would be lovely. And if anybody wants to stick their hand up because they've um, got a good, as long as they've got permission to share something that's not theirs. If anyone fancies sticking their hand up, okay, Nikki, come on, let's hear it.
I was excited to share about how I'm living in the deep jungle of Costa Rica right now. So abundance is just the name of it. But then on top of that, I went to a Burning Man regional as a featured chef there last month. And it was just an abundance of gratitude. Like everything was provided for me. And then, in this like cycle of abundance, I was feeding all of these people really good food and they were very excited about that. So it was just like, like to me, Costa Rica, just being here in this area is like a symbol of abundance with all the wildlife and the trees and plants and everything, even the rain. So
Even
yeah, that was what I shared in mine.
thank you, Nikki. Viv,
Hi. So we had a really lovely conversation about the kind of abundance offered by smaller beings in general, but I also wanted to share, we were talking about kind of abundance as a not entirely unproblematic concept. So that kind of, many of the issues that we are facing are potentially caused by our kind of perception of an abundance of things that potentially aren't abundant, and kind of how, yeah, we just had a really interesting conversation about abundance as a concept and how it's helpful, but also how it can cause friction.
yeah, thank you, Viv. That's really helpful. Robert,
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm working on a set of sort of coaching cards with a friend at the moment, and the one I'm working on today is abundance. So it's a nice little bit of synchronicity.
oh, beautiful, thank you. And yeah, I think I really ought to have mentioned, um, that this is something that we practice whilst also holding the grief. No, it's the same. It's the same. Requires the same kind of holding, both the grief and the gratitude. So thank you, everyone. Anna, I'm going to hand over to you to start taking us through our session today.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, everyone. Just gonna start sharing my screen. Hopefully this works and my laptop doesn't get too uncomfortable? Can everybody see those slides? I could get a thumbs up so I can see you.
Anna, we're looking at your Google Docs, not your slides.
Oh, let me stop sharing. Let's try that again. Apologies, everyone. Where is it? Okay, hold on. Sorry about this, everyone. It's always the way with technology and me in these events. Talk amongst yourselves. Or Hannah, I wonder if you could get the slides up for me and then I can continue. Would that work? I seem to have lost the slides now.
All right. That's fine. There we go. All right.
Is that working? Hopefully people can see this.
Let's see. Loading.
Are we getting a
We're getting there.
peek of community weavers? Thank you so much, Hannah. So if you just want to skip over to, I think it's the third slide. So yeah, thank you everyone for sharing your abundance. Really hoping you're feeling grounded into the session now, and yeah, feeling that sense of hopefulness in this community. And so this is the Collective Imagination Practice Community. Some of you may have been with this community from its inception, or you may have become aware of this space just recently. And regardless of your involvement to date, we're really welcoming you warmly into this space. And for a bit of context, the Collective Imagination Practice Community has been funded by the Joseph Rowntree Foundation Emerging Futures team for the last 2 years. We're in our 3rd year now. And it's been stewarded by Huddlecraft, which is an organisation that I represent, Canopy, where Hannah is representing, and we've been stewarding this space for the last 2 years. The Centre for Public Impact were also responsible for stewarding the community in the 1st year of the project, and they also hosted a huddle in the 1st year on reimagining local democracy, which you can check out in our blogs on our Medium. So yeah, with this community of people, we've been really seeking to strengthen imagination practice across the globe to inspire transformative change and nourish threads that weave us together, imaginal threads that weave us together, with the hope of bringing about greater awareness and belief and practice in how imagination can change the world and lead us into a just transition. And so before looking into the year ahead, we wanted to take a moment to look back on what we've already done. And since 2023, we've been doing a lot. We've had the community membership growing from nothing when we first started, obviously, to 530 people, more than 530 people in year 1, more than 950 people in year 2. We've had many different events, open sessions, including seed swaps, where practitioners have come into our community to share their practice and their projects, harvesting sessions where we've been capturing and gathering and distilling learning from the projects and practices that have been funded and developed within the community. We've also had some talks from the edge of practice from leaders in the field who are pushing at the imaginal edges of collective space. We've got over 70 blogs currently on our Medium publication, which you can check out, which I'll share a link in a moment. And when we first started the community, there was a WhatsApp group that was created, or WhatsApp community with many groups within it, which is now, we're kind of moving towards more of a decentralized approach with our communications. And to help us along the way, we've developed an online community home for the collective imagination practice. Share link here in the chat here, sorry. We had practitioners, collective imagination practitioners, coaching with On Purpose last year as well. So those are just some of the offerings that we've had within the community. And if we go on to the next slide, you can see as well that we've been engaging in many huddles. There should be one before that, Hannah. That's it. So we've trained 10 hosts to host 10 huddles over the past 2 years. In the first year, you can see the collection of huddles that we had, including explorations around hopeful climate futures, creative transcendence, decentralized creativity, and imaginal democracies. And then in the second year, we were developing huddles around the government context and collective imagination, really trying to build those bridges between these two contexts for learning and exchange. We've also had the Fun Circle, which was formed in the first year. And over the last 2 years, we've made 107 micro grants across 3 rounds. And we are going to be letting you know a little bit more about the fund in the coming year shortly. And finally, just wanting to share that this shared scrapbook that we were working on and developing in the first year has now been created. We've now created a seed library, which can be found within that link that I've shared in the chat as well. So you can search through the seed library and see a multitude of projects and practices and activities to allow for practitioners and people within the community and beyond to connect with one another and understand what the work is and how to build it. So looking forward into the 3rd year of this community, we are looking at a few strands. The first is building community, so increasing the connectivity and deepening the relationships that we've already been developing through the past 2 years. We know that for many of you, this is a space to really connect with one another in a way that you can't necessarily in other spaces. It's a space where we can question the dominant narratives and imaginaries and show up in a really wholehearted way. And we've heard from many of you that this is a really key reason for why you want to keep engaging with the community here. And we want to continue building that wholeheartedness into this space. And so activities related to the community building aspect of this work include community weaving, which we'll hear a little bit more about from Hannah shortly. We're going to have a kind of program of events and a sense of connective potential around the seed library within the community, and of course the fund, which is there to support our community members to really grow and amplify and augment their existing practices and projects. And then we have our field building strand, which is really to articulate clearly and with confidence all that we are as collective imagination practitioners, and the value of this work. So making ourselves and the work more visible, growing the conversation. Field building is about mapping and reaching out to those key allies within the work who have audiences with whom we want to engage with, that we want to have dialogue with. So last year we did sense making, we had some sense making conversations. We had a series of edge of practice talks. So we're thinking about who other than our practitioners within these communities need to hear about this work to create more enabling conditions for collective imagination to grow, take root and to spread. And the kind of audience we're interested in reaching and engaging with are people who can take this conversation forward. So reaching out to audiences that can grow the possibilities of collective imagination practice in service of reworlding, using imagination to really change the world. So we're thinking about people within funding spaces, people who have relationships or are policymakers, or people working in governance spaces. People who are working in academia, researchers, thought leaders who are busy creating the case for working with imagination in service of just transitions. And a seed library, and the seed library, apologies, is an important part of that field building work. So how are we using this space and this infrastructure to really have those conversations and use it as a hub? And so cutting across these two strands and in all we do is this concept or ethos around decentralizing. So we're really focusing on decentralizing in the form of the way that we work within the stewarding team and how we democratize imaginal practice more broadly, how we're bringing community members into the conversations, how we are increasing participation and also offering up opportunities that allow and enable folks to step in and to get directly involved in stewarding aspects and parts of this community. So the ways in which we've done that today are with the Fund Circle, who we'll hear from shortly, the seed librarians, and also we now have a new group of community weavers that we're welcoming in. And there will be many other emerging opportunities as we move through the year, no doubt. And so with all of that said, we are really thinking about how we are oscillating throughout the year with this relationship between community building and field building. How are we taking root, taking value, taking our awareness and comprehension from what's happening within the community and feeding that out to the field? How are we creating those connections with the organizations, with the people that we need to be having these conversations with? And there will be a series of different events that we are mapping out across the year. I think that's on the next slide. Can't really see this slide so well, but we've got this kind of the outward facing or field building events being things like this launch event, the Edge of Practice talks, welcoming events and celebration events. And then in the community building inward facing piece, we're really thinking about how we sense making, how are we listening deeply, how are we harvesting our learnings and capturing them in order to build our infrastructure. Okay, I think that's probably enough from me. We're going to move now into a little bit more around community weaving. So I will pass over to Hannah.
Thank you, Anna. So you can see down the bottom these sort of turquoise coloured diamonds, which says community weaving offers. And that's because one of the things you said to us at the end of last year was that you wanted more opportunities to get involved with shaping how the community gathers. And for us to give out more what we sometimes call micro roles, but paid roles for people to do different things as part of the community, to support the community. Now, previously, we've used the structure of huddles, which have helped us to sort of give leadership to community members around a particular topic. But it's quite a contained group. It's sort of a maximum of 12 people going very deep on something. And we want to experiment with using the resource that we might have put into huddles into these new community weaving roles that will work in a much more porous way to shape the ways that we can gather and the things that we come together about. So we had the call out, many of you will have seen it, a couple of weeks ago, and we are going to appoint 3 members of the community quite soon. We had 50 people apply, and we've got our interviews this week, so there will very soon be some community weavers in place, 3 community weavers, which we're really excited about. And we don't know yet what they will dream up, but we've sort of gathered some of the interests you've already expressed, which will also help them decide. So it might look like some more informal hangout spaces. They might want to convene thematic groups. There might be the possibility of imagination buddies or imagination book club. We don't know yet, but look out for how they will be supporting us in new ways. We're really excited to welcome them into our kind of stewarding space. Chris, I think it's over to you now to talk about the Seed Library.
Sure. Happy to be here. Thanks, everybody. So I'm just here to remind you that the Seed Library exists and tell you a little bit about what we did last year, what the intention is, and where we think it's going. So I'm one of 3 seed librarians at the moment, including with help from the stewarding team. And over the last year, we went through a process to look at all of the community wisdom in the blogs and scrapbook with the intention of making the content and ourselves more visible and useful to each other. So we checked with our fellow practitioners and curated 13 brilliant activities that you'll find there in the seed library. I see Devon and Savannah on the call who contributed here. So thank you everybody who did contribute to it. And for those who haven't, we hope to continue to curate and gather your contributions. So this is just a humble beginnings of a prototype we have here at the moment. And it does really want to be a connective ecology of us practitioners and practices. It's supposed to be from us, for us. This is kind of the decentralized aspect to it. So we were talking earlier about the idea of a community garden. It came up, and what would this, it invites the question of what would this have to be if it was a place that we all wanted to tend to? And that's still up for development and design. So your feedback is warmly invited. There is a feedback link on the homepage, and anybody who writes some feedback, we will get back to personally. And curation will continue this year. There will be an integration at some point with the community platform. It's very likely to be Hilo, but that will be coming soon. This will be a place where questions and answers are centralized, so there's one place to go. And previously there have been harvesting sessions where we've helped each other collectively retrospect on our practices and document our practices. And this year there will be a tighter integration and feedback between how we help each other retrospect and how we help each other share between the community membership platform and between the seed library. So that's it for now. Feel free to check the seed library out and please give us some feedback, and we'd love for your continued tending and contribution.
Wow, thanks, Chris. It's Tim here. Sorry, I was just waiting to see if anyone else was going to jump in, but they're not, so I'm doing it. I'm both a seed librarian and a member of the Fund Circle. So I have the great delight of seeing all the beautiful things that are happening as part of the community. But this year we are planning on bringing a new member into the Fund Circle. Zara, who was one of the 3 people in the Fund Circle, she's left to have a baby, so there's space for someone new to come in. So we're looking for a new member to join the circle with myself and Cass. So the recruitment for that will go live this week. It closes on the 28th of April. It's quite a light touch process, and really what you'll be involved in is making decisions on the applications on behalf of the community. We try our best to represent the community and shepherd through the things that we feel the community would really value and work that really consolidates what we're doing. So we'd love to welcome a new member onto that role. It is one of those micro roles that has got a modest amount of funding with it. So you're not asked to volunteer your time. You do get some recompense for that. We're also about to open the fund again. Thank you, whoever's doing the slides. You're doing a great job. So this year we're going to have one round of £60,000, and that supports grants as in previous years of up to 3,000. The deadline for that is Monday, the 12th of May. So it's going to open this week. You're going to have about a month to get your applications in. And really the thinking behind that is that what we really want to do this year is consolidate the work that's happening in the community. In previous years, particularly last year, we were massively oversubscribed. I think we had over 100 applications, and we were only able to fund about 15 of those. So we really want to make sure that we're using the fund to support and nourish the community. So quite a tight window, but the invitation is there to bring forward your projects and your practices and think about how you want to develop and how the fund circle can support that. It's a very light touch process. It's quite an easy application form. You submit it via Google, as long as you've worked through your practice. Really, the core thing to focus on is what's collective imagination, and so to be eligible, you need to be over 18, you need to be part of the community, you want it to contribute to all of the community. And that's really what the seed library is there to do. So we recognized that our previous way of documenting, it was a bit static. People had put the information in there and there was no way of getting it back out. So this year, now that we've got the seed library and we've got the community weavers, we're really excited to see how the three parts of the community all start to relate to each other and talk to each other. So we won't do solo learning, development activity, personal equipment, materials that aren't connected to collective imagination, subscriptions, subcontracting someone else to deliver it on your behalf. Flights, anything over £3,000, and normally it's one person, one funding bit per round. So in previous years, some people have gone, well, I want 3K for this first half of it and another 3K for the second half of it, and there just isn't the resources to go around. So we do try and limit it. Yeah, let's have a look. Yeah, so really the description of it is, well, this is what we spend the most time on within the fund circle, is deliberating. Is it collective imagination practice? And I'm sure that's going to be the same. So I'm really looking forward to someone else joining the circle who can maybe answer that. But you know what it's like. It's this magical shifting thing that you know it when you experience it and when it happens. But unfortunately, for the purposes of applying for the fund, we need to pin it down a bit more. So yeah, practice-based, growing the capacity of people to see the possibilities and shift their perceptions. It needs to work in the collective. What happens when we do things with other people and we imagine with other people? What happens in those resonant moments, that liminal space in between, is a sort of magic. So it's got to focus on that. And we are looking for stuff that is applied, I guess you could say, that is taking us somewhere. I know at the start we talked about that transition to a safe and just society, and that's really all the work that we're looking to move into. So yeah, that's the fund circle. It will go live this week. We'll email everyone via the mailing list, and you've got about a month to make your application. And if you want to come in and join us and help steward the process, then you'd be really welcome. That's going to go live this week and ends at the end of April. So happy to take questions. I can see Rebecca's already asked one. Let me read it. And we're still working on our activities for access purposes. Guidance how to contribute to the seed library. Yeah, contact me. So you're welcome. And I think what we hope to do in this relationship between the funded activities and the seed library is develop some collective knowledge. So it may be that we start having like peer group sessions where people go through the process together, so that we're creating that shared knowledge. But yeah, you're welcome to contact me. There is only one founder of Runding. There is only one founder of Runding, yes. We're just so oversubscribed. So what we're trying to do is have a nice, tight process that really supports the needs of the community. There's 1,000 people in our community now, and only 60K to go around. Ross.
Hello. Yes, I've got two questions actually. One is, would you consider match funding a project if a small amount of funding was available from, say, a local authority? Would you consider matching that?
Yeah, but there's no need to provide match funding. I know lots of funding out there has this requirement. We'll only put half in, and this can be 100% funding if that's what needs to make something happen. But yeah, absolutely. If you can draw in extra funds, extra resources to make something on a bigger scale or reach more people, more than welcome. Was that the first of two? Go on.
That's the first question. Yeah, my other question is, after the deadline, how long would we expect to wait to hear the result?
And for that, I need to consult another end of May. So not 2 or 3 weeks. It's all depends
amazing.
as long as we aren't absolutely inundated. But yeah, the aim is to turn it around fairly quickly so that this can support stuff that's happening through the summer, basically.
Thank you.
Tony, yes, more than welcome to have a chat about which would suit the collective imagination practice community. There you go. Drop us an email, and we'll let you know. There must be more.
Amy put a question in, Tim, which was about like what level of kind of community involvement is expected in terms of that, who it's for. Certainly Amy, I know, has been quite involved in the community. She comes to our seed swaps and various other events. So I would sort of say this is absolutely appropriate for Amy. But I think when we say they're an active member of the community, that means that you think of this community as one of your homes or belonging spaces, rather than sort of someone forwarded you the call and you thought, oh, that sounds good, I'll just sort of jump into that. It's not to say that we wouldn't fund a project that came that way, but really we're wanting to focus on people for whom collective imagination practice is a core part of what they're trying to grow, rather than trying to sort of shoehorn something they're already doing into a collective imagination practice frame, if that makes sense. Like for people who are really trying to grow their practice and identity around collective imagination practice, and finds this a supportive and good place to be, and will want to contribute to the seed library so that we all learn from what they do, that sort of thing. But you don't have to have been in the community for 3 years or anything like that. If you're a recent member, that's also fine.
Rebecca, there's a question there around reasonable adjustments around the application process. What I would say is it's a super simple application process. It's literally what do you want to do, what the steps involve, what will be the outcome, how will it contribute to the community, and how does it fit within our definition of collective practice. It's not it's a super simple process, and that works both ways. That aids applicants, but it also makes it easier for us. But we would encourage folk to apply particularly if you've got a practice that you've started working with and you can see an opportunity to scale it or expand it or grow it in some way. Then that's what this is for. It's about supporting the needs of the members of the community. Oh, and anyone across the globe can apply.
Yeah, the only constraint, Tim, isn't it, that it's from a country that we can work with in terms of Open Collective and WISE, which are like fiscal things. So Open Collective is the way in which we distribute money, and it works in partnership with WISE, which enables international transfers. The majority of countries can work with these two, but that's the only thing to check, isn't it, Tim?
Sony, you asked what the turnaround time. We'll have done it by the end of May, so that you can start from June onwards, really. but equally, I suppose it's worth saying that it doesn't have to start straight away. If you've got stuff that you want to work on later in the year, then we can look at that as part of the application process.
Tim, can you speak to Tracy's question about whether there's support for people who might need a bit of help?
There's support available through the Fund Circle, so you're welcome to email us on the Collective Imagination Practice email, and we will get back to you.
Okay.
Rebecca, if I'm happy to have a chat about what we can do to make the form easier. I'm not trying to shut that down at all. So if you want to share some thoughts, please do. Probably not now. Maybe via email.
Any more questions? Or just questions in general from the rest of our from what you've heard elsewhere, not necessarily the fund.
Trying to put my hand up technically.
Just speak. Yes, just speak.
I'm busy trying to find the gadget, and
they're always moving it around, aren't they?
Yeah, I'm curious what those of you who are in the heart of this, like where is your imagination? What are the kind of the edges of your imagination practice that mean, oh, you'd be really excited to see projects that are exploring this, or tackling this, or playing with this? I'd love to hear what would excite you to hear about this year.
Do you want to speak to that, Tim, or do you want me to?
I view you as being more at the heart of it than me.
So, that's funny. I view you as. I think when we see everything that comes in, what we're trying to do is like offer. So last time we got lots that were brilliant, that were like all if we'd had a bigger fund, we would have like appointed funds to to the majority of them. And so when it came to picking, we were kind of looking at how do we represent in what we pick the spectrum of what comes in. So this is like basically giving a rubbish answer to your question, because what I'm saying is once we've kind of corralled the sort of the top list, if you like, then we might, if there were two that were very similar, then we would try and pick one of them rather than both of them, because we're also wanting to make sure that in our exploration of imagination practice, we are funding things that are trying to learn new things. So for example, if we had 20 things which were about exploring working class aspects of collective imagination practice, we might pick one or two of those, yeah, but we probably wouldn't pick all of them. So it's, it really is decided in the whole spread. But as I think Tim already mentioned, we are really interested in those that are trying to move the imagining into doing, sort of like, and £3,000 isn't a lot to do that with, right? We appreciate that. But where people are able to convene groups that can imagine and then begin to pull that imagining into reality, that's really interesting to us. Because I think often imagining is either seen as a tool for making things a bit more fun and accessible, and for improving well-being, which it does improve well-being, or as a kind of fantasy utopia, but it's often not seen as something that is a powerful motivator to really change things. So I think that's often we're interested in those examples. But I don't want to say anything that puts anybody off who has a well-being idea, for example, because we are also interested in those. I hope that helps a bit.
Yeah, and I wasn't asking even necessarily in order to know how to apply. It was more like I want to know what excites you, like what's and that's great to hear about that.
Unfortunately, Tony, nearly all of them excite us.
Great.
Jess.
Hi there, I hope you can hear me. Really nice to be here in the community. I feel a little out of my depth because I only just joined late last year and I've had a period of illness. I feel that although I've got a lot of learning in different areas like psychology, media, civic imagination, I'm still growing my own practice. And so some of the things that the funding circle mentioned that couldn't be funded, and I completely understand why, things like personal equipment and, training and stuff. I feel like I'm kind of at the start of the process and the funders may be at the middle or towards the end of a practice development. So my question, maybe this can be answered via email, is like, where does a practitioner go to get mentoring, to get funding for these things, even if it isn't from yourselves? Is there anywhere that you or the community could recommend, or someone I can reach out to have a longer conversation about that?
Tim, do you want to say anything? I'm happy to.
No, I'm aware that was a lot of info.
That's fine. No, Jess, you're not the first person to sort of say, where can I find an introduction to imagination practice or a grounding? And I think I would answer in a sort of couple of things on that. First of all, this is a very emergent field. There is no sort of official introduction to it. There is no specific course. Most of us who are collective imagination practitioners, and it's something I've been calling myself for about 8 years, we work with certain kinds of imagination practice or sort of artistic practice, maybe is a better way to put it, and then we kind of cobble it together with some sort of systems change perspectives or design thinking or sort of insights from other bits of change making methodology, and we are kind of learning it as we go. So you probably know more than you think, but I don't want to assume that. And I also like to say, if anyone wants to email me for a chat about their practice, they're very welcome to. I'll just put my
I really appreciate that. I think we've had a little bit of a dialogue about the community weavers, but I mean, for example, I've got a lot of training in imaginal practice from various things, from shamanic practice to Jungian psychology. As I'm a part of the civic imagination research group, which I believe your team drew from. But yeah, it's just when you're kind of, and I'm saying this and I'm hopeful that it's helpful for other members of the community as I speak, it's like how does one draw that together? And when you're trying to ask for funding from whoever, it's like, well, what's imagination? Who are you again? Why do you need this money for a new Mac? Mine's 12 years old, so it's sort of difficult,
Yes. Well, Jess, maybe I will offer a kind of chat on that. Like, how do you take your imaginal or artistic practice and how do you design it into a project flow which enables a journey to be visible that takes people from one way, sort of being rooted in one kind of social imaginary, to growing another. And I'd also invite you to look on the Medium publication. Jake and I wrote a paper at the end of last year on there, an article, which was like, what is collective imagination practice and how is it different to other change-making practices? And you might find that helpful at kind of trying to position it alongside other ways of doing change that are related to it. But maybe I'll put that out as a kind of a workshop for people to come and have a chat about how we do that, because I think that's a really interesting topic.
That would be really great, because one of my key things is safety, particularly as regards mental health, and I've got quite a lot of experience in that, and I know that there are others here who have that experience, or maybe on different axes, things like social justice, intersectionality. So anyway, I've spoken long enough, but thank you very much. I'll reach out to you.
No problem. And we are actually at time. So thank you so much for coming. We will make sure that we get this video out there for those that couldn't make it, and get the slides available. And of course, do keep your eyes peeled for the fund being released, and the fund circle micro role that will be released this week. It will come to you on email, so make sure you're on our email list. I'm sure you all are if you're here. And thank you for joining us. It's lovely to see you all, and we look forward to what we'll cook up together for the rest of the year. Anything you'd like to add, Anna?
No, that's great. Thanks so much, and thanks for the vibrant conversation in the chat as well. It's really great to see. Thanks all for being here. See you soon.
Bye.